Tasting Anarchy, your wine and liberty podcast. Join Mason and Jake each week as they try new wines and discover how much government is in your drink.
All right, I actually did it correctly. I think this is like the second time in a row I've actually clicked it correctly. So, welcome to Tasting Anarchy. I am your host Jacob Lindsay, and as always, I'm joined by
Mason Joseph.
And this is, I guess we took last week off, but I've got some wines to share for this week. I do also have a beer that I would like to just briefly mention because we went to the brewery yesterday and to Martin House, which is a pretty good brewery in Fort Worth. They had a beer launch that was for a barbecue beer that was very interesting. Victoria loved it. I liked it. I think its base is a sour, and I'm a little bit over sours, but it was very good. They also had a really interesting. I can't remember what it was called. I should probably look it up. But it was a rice beer, but it was black. I don't know how they got the color.
Lager, but rice.
Yeah, but with rice. Huh. So I don't know how they would have gotten the color on it, unless it's not only rice. It could be that it's also whatever else. But it tasted a lot kind of like it was like a wee heavy, but lighter body. It was good. I liked that one a lot. And some of the best salsa I've ever had in my life. There was a dude vending it. And since we were sitting out in the heat eating, I was like, well, let's go get some chips and salsa from this guy. And we got like a green salsa. It wasn't salsa verde. It was mixed with avocado. So it was like avocado and green peppers mixed. Super, super good. And then the red one was also really good. They also had a yellow one, but we didn't try that one yet. That's apparently their best seller, but maybe next time. So it was fun. When you're out here in Texas, we'll go to Martin House probably.
That'd be good.
Nice place. It's right there on the river in Fort Worth. So when it's not 105 degrees out, it's nice to go take a walk down the side of the river there. But so that was good. I'll save my wine ones for a little bit later if you want to go ahead and share what you've been sipping on this week.
So not this week, but I had gotten this because I'm an idiot who reads, but reads the wrong thing. So I went to Total Wine, and like one of the things I've been noticing is like the beer selection out here is getting weird because there's a lot of local breweries, but like you can't get a lot of local stuff in the breweries. And like Devil's Backbone, which used to be like a local brewery, but it was in Leesburg, but got bought by like, I'm going to say Boston Beer, but it wasn't Boston Beer, but it's somebody like that. Got bought by like a big beer company, and they're getting heavier under the market. They do a bunch of different stuff. That's okay. But like I went to Total Wine a couple weeks ago going like, I want to get like a beer, like kind of like I want to find something, it's like that, like discoveries. Like I want to find something good. So I'm walking around and like they reconfigured, as I've complained many times, like they reconfigured the section, and they've even reconfigured it more where like they've removed like more of the beer section, where now like they used to have a cider section that was pretty good. But now it's like seltzer-y things, but it's like seltzer's dying too. So it's just like, it's a weird mix. And there's just a lot of stuff where it's like IPAs, but like nothing where it's like, hey, this is just a mellow IPA, or like, hey, like it's like people trying to go like triples and like triple IPA, but like just not well. So walking down the aisles and I see a sign that says Czech style Pilsner. And your former boss, my current coworker, when he went to Czech Republic, like told me about Kozel. And like when I was in Czech Republic, I pretty much only drank Kozel and I loved it. It was super good. And I was like, oh man, if this is anything like Kozel, like I'll get a pack of it and I'll bring it to our coworker and be like, dude, because it was a local brewery. Yeah. But when I looked at the case, it like, so like the sign said, hey, this is a Czech style beer, but it was like, I couldn't tell who the brewery was.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So when I looked at it, like it was like Italian style Pilsner. I was like, son of a bitch. Like something I've not even heard of before. I was just like annoyed. And so I get home and I'm like, this says it's on Fort Monroe, which is like just across the water from Norfolk where I live. And like there's Ouzel Finch, which like is a brewery that's yeah. So this is actually by Ouzel Finch, but it's like some sort of Nost project. So this is Nost's Wistful Affection 4-pack. Now, I can't find anything on their website that explains what the hell Nost is.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's not like
bad marketing.
Yeah. So it's not like, hey, this is the Mason and Jacob brewery, and this is the Mason line, and this is the Jacob line, and then these are our collab beers. Like, okay, that's a cool idea. This has got like some like head brewer, Rachel Howard. Okay, lady head brewer, cool, interesting. But is she the head brewer for Ouzel Finch? Like, there's nothing on their website that I can find that explains what the hell this means. So, like, and you know me, pissed off immediately.
Yeah, of course.
Like, so, because as you and I both know, there's no reason to have a not good website at this point. Like, what is that? And especially when you're doing some sort of like project thing, because like even on the can, it doesn't really say like Nost's like Wistful Affection by Ouzel Finch or something. It's just not clear that it's an Ouzel Finch beer.
Does Nost mean something? The word?
It's all capitalized, almost like it's like some sort of acronym or something. I just don't know. So, you know,
Nost Brewing Project, Hampton, Virginia.
Yeah. So that's what it said on there, is like the Nost Brewing Project. But that's
that's all it says, is that it's located on Ouzel Finch beer in London.
Yeah. So and when you go on their website, it's not like it's a subsection. It's very frustrating. So Italian Pilsner, I was like, okay. So I pop one open, and it's like, it is like, and because part of what I was thinking is like, oh man, like if there's a local brewery that does like a like Kozel style beer, this will be good. Like I can get like kind of a drinking beer, like this, you know, like Will's always talking about a sessionable beer and stuff like that. And it's not that like I want a sessionable beer, but like I also don't want to drink like monster beers, like 9.5, 10% alcohol by volume anymore when it's just like IPA. It's like, you know, something else usually. So it was bitter, but like not bitter in a bad way, but it was more bitter than I was expecting. Then it was like, it was also hazy. So like it was pretty like unfiltered looking, which was pretty cool. And then from there, it was like, so like when you go drink a Yuengling, and it may be because like I've known about Yuengling since I was like 12, or the fact that the brewery started in like 1859, it's a refined beer.
Yeah, it's exactly the reason I like it, is because it just tastes like what it is, and not anything off or weird or anything like that. Unless it's warm. If it's warm, it has this weird additional flavor.
It's more caramel to it, which I like. Yeah. Well, that's kind of where this was more like. It was like it was like a wilder version of Yuengling.
Interesting.
But like if you put like it in a can and Yuengling in a can, and like had them cool, like you wouldn't be like, yeah, these are like the same style. But like if you sipped it and kind of it got closer to room temperature and stuff like that, you'd be like, I see what you mean. Like this is very much like a Yuengling's wild brother sort of thing. So it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't amazing. It was like, you know, $16 for a 4-pack or whatever. Had low alcohol by volume, so that was kind of appreciated. So it wasn't like some killer, but it was also just not like, because there was so little information about it, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. But what I found much more interesting was Italian Pilsner as a style. So like it was like expressly like kind of a rejection of the German Pilsner styles, and like the Germans being more rigid, the Italians want to kind of experiment, and apparently like a bunch of Americans are doing it now. So like I found an article that we can put in the show notes from hopculture.com, which sounds like a website we kind of should know about.
Yeah.
So I'll put it in the chat, but like, it was an interesting read. Again, I didn't, it's one of those bloggy articles that was just too long, so I didn't read the whole thing, but it was very interesting about like a guy, because he was talking about like a Kolsch,
which I like,
yeah. So he was like, hey, this is what people said about Kolsch, and like, it was an interesting story, but like at a certain point, it was like, it's not like the guy with the wine magazine where it's like just the facts and none of your bullshit. It was like too much bullshit, but like not anywhere. It was like, oh, and then when I voted for Bernie Sanders, I had a hard on, and
right.
It was like, I don't need to know about all this beer stuff.
Yeah.
But being a culture website, like, okay, like I get more of the background, but I was just like, I just want to know about the beer style.
Yeah.
So
it's like it's a beer snob site. So so that's good. Let's stay on the beer topic, because my article is actually a beer related article today.
Okay.
And then we'll go to my wine reviews. Did you see the news about Stone Brewing?
No.
They were purchased by Sapporo for $165 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was shocked about this, because I kind of recall us talking about this, that Stone has been approached many times by several different. This article that I'm reading is from the San Diego Tribune.
Mm-hmm.
But as I recall, I think we've talked about it before. Maybe I'm mixing up the brewery, but that they had been approached by several people to purchase them for very large amounts of money, and they've said no every time.
Yeah.
And I mean, for those of you who are listening that are not beer people or don't know, like Stone is a big brewery. It's a huge mainstay in San Diego, Southern California generally, and it's available nationwide, and they make great products. I don't think I've had anything from Stone that I didn't care for.
I've had some of their crazier IPAs where it's just like, this wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me.
Are they the one that made that donut beer?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I remember I don't like that donut beer, but I couldn't remember who made that. I think it is somebody from Southern California though that makes that. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting, and they said, and also like I don't associate Sapporo with this style of beer at all. I associate them with extremely light.
Refreshing.
I like Sapporo. It's just exactly. It's just super, super light beer. It's just like I just don't, this is just not how I think about it, but maybe that's part of their business plan, is they're like, look, we want to expand into the market of like good IPAs and, the other things that Stone offers. Because I think Stone also has a pretty lucrative seltzer business too.
I haven't ever seen anything from Stone for that, but like that doesn't mean that that's not true. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. I might be making half of the information up, but yeah, I thought that was just kind of an interesting thing. So apparently the deal is going to be done by the end of 2024, and according to the article, part of the reason for this is because it will also double Stone's current production volume, because Sapporo is going to be able to bring in, I guess, additional money for it. And I'll read the last paragraph here just because it's kind of interesting. So we approached Stone Brewing seeking a partner for our growth plans in the U.S., and we quickly recognized they were an ideal partner with bi-coastal brewing capacity, loyal fans, superb management, shared cultural values, and a commitment to the highest quality standards. This guy's name is, so it said Kenny Sadai, chairman of Sapporo USA.
Mm-hmm.
This acquisition puts the resources and legacy of the largest Asian beer brand in America together with one of the most innovative and recognized craft beer brands in the world. So that's pretty interesting. You can all say hi to my wife in the background. She just walks around now in the background. But yeah, so I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like that. First of all, I didn't realize that Sapporo was the largest Asian beer brand in America, but also I can't really think of any other Asian beer brands, so it would make sense.
Yeah,
Ahi, I guess Ahi, and isn't there the owl one, the one with the owl on it? I think that one's Japanese.
Yeah,
but I don't remember what it is.
I mean, Sapporo is Japanese as well, so
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, do you remember how much Dogfish Head was acquired for?
I don't. Was it more than this? Really?
Yeah. What was that?
I said, really?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't even think of Dogfish Head as being that large.
Yeah. Well, how many barrels do you think Dogfish Head produces?
I would have no way of knowing.
Just more or less than Stone.
I would imagine less than Stone.
Yeah. So Dogfish Head, according to Wikipedia, 175,000 barrels. They got acquired by Boston Beer in 2019 for $300 million. Stone, less than 200, and a 2-year plus deal, they produced like 359,000 barrels. So almost like double the volume, like actually double the volume, and for almost half as much. So like that's kind of like showing like where the market is going, at least in my opinion, like for these crazy beers. Well, and this was like 2015 Stone's brewing size. So
okay, yeah, and this is what this is what it says about the deal in the article. It says the deal is valued at around 165 million, with potential for additional payments based on business performance and I'm sorry, I read this wrong. So the deal is valued at 165 million, with potential additional payments based on business performance, and is expected to close in August. So, I wonder if that means that they're giving them 165 now, and then there's like a time frame where they expect to figure out the rest. But yeah, I don't. Let me see if there's somewhere that's a little bit more clear on how much. I'm just kind of curious because here, San Diego 8. Let's see what they say. No, they said the same thing. 165 million. I don't know. That's wild because I would have thought that Stone would have been worth a lot more than that. But it could be that the merger is different. That maybe it's not an outright purchase. Maybe it's a merger that's different somehow. How weird. Yeah, that's interesting. But I thought that was a relevant article because
no, it's definitely relevant because I think it's one of those things to watch on like trends and things like that, and that's one of those ones where like Sapporo and like I don't want to do the conversion, but like so Sapporo produces 6.16 or 616.374 megaliters of beer.
It's a lot of liters.
But like that's one of those ones where like if you think about Sapporo, like as far as I know, like they don't produce like a lot of beers.
Yeah, I'm not honestly. I only know they have a dark one and a light one that's available at the sushi place, and that's all I know about them.
And like all I know is like basically the light one. So like, and then I was looking at the so like they said, oh, Anchor Brewing. Okay. So they've got a San Francisco beer company. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. That I guess Anchor Brewing. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So they bought Anchor in 2017 for $85 million. And Anchor produces 132,000 barrels of beer in 2013. I mean, obviously, who knows what they may do now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't Anchor the one that was like a Gold Rush beer and then got canceled in Prohibition, and then they revitalized the brand a couple of years ago. Because I think we talked about this at some point.
Maybe Anchor. No, because 1959, they're the one who makes the steam beer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They seem familiar.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. I don't think this is, as far as I'm aware, I don't think this is available around here.
This is one of those ones where, like, I feel like you and I have had this somewhere, but who knows for sure.
Well, we may have independently had it both in California. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks familiar, but not familiar enough that I'd be like, oh, yeah, I know that one.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think I do think it's, and it's also something that you and I are just kind of interested generally in, is like the business dealings in the wine world. Like, actually, interestingly enough, of the business dealings, is it Decoy? Who's the one that makes Decoy, the wine? Let me look it up real quick. It's just Decoy Wines. So they were actually at this taste event in Dallas that we went to a couple weeks ago, which I thought was odd, but also there was only one Texas winery at the Dallas taste event. Everything else was California or Washington, which I was like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder if they weren't able to get anybody up there. And it was mostly, there was actually some of them, and I did review those on the last episode. Some of those were really good, but I got some other wines that I'll talk a little bit about today. But anyways, the point of that was that Decoy also went public not too long ago. And I'm kind of interested in the business dealings of the alcohol industry generally, because it seems like it's just interesting to see how it kind of fits into the overall economy. Like the seltzer craze was just kind of bizarre, and now there's kind of like a seltzer bust. Like, people just are not interested in it anymore. They're just kind of over it. And
yeah. Well, I think the big thing with seltzer, the big problem with seltzer, at least as far as I can tell at this point, is too many with too little distinguishing.
Yeah.
So it's your local brewery can make seltzer and probably makes a great one if you like seltzer, but Bud Light makes the same basic equivalent at nickel a can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
so they can clean up. Yeah. Why would you pay? Well, it kind of reminds me of, I think it was Coors who did Zima back in the 90s, where that seems like sort of a similar niche where they're like, we want to be in this sort of woman's drink, or at least that's my impression of Zima. I don't know. I think actually it was supposed to be marketed toward men, but they're like, we're trying to market this to people, like a lower calorie, like easier to drink in hot weather kind of thing. And from my understanding, Zima is still actually extremely popular in Asia. It's just not here anymore. I think it's Coors that did Zima.
So yes, it was, and they stopped making it in Japan in 2021.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was big. I thought it was still big over there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, that's the thing, is they was still marketed in Japan.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, they stopped in 2008 in the U.S. But it's like Smirnoff Ice. Remember, when Smirnoff?
That's right. That was popular for a while.
Yeah.
And Mike's Hard Lemonade, I kind of put in that same sort of category. Although I do still see Mike's Hard Lemonade places.
I still see both.
Yeah. You see Smirnoff? I can't remember the last time I've seen a Smirnoff, but I also don't really pay attention to that section of the store. So
yeah. Well, and I think the big thing that for me is I see it, but I also go, that's just heartburn. Just heartburn
right.
In a can.
Yeah. Right.
So, which is what it was for me always.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me go ahead and do. We got a couple more minutes. Let me go ahead and do my 2 wine reviews, and then we'll wrap up. So I went to a wine tasting. I've got my wine tasting sheet here. And Victoria didn't care for it. I liked it a lot, though. We tasted 8 wines. Victoria didn't really care for any of them. I think she wanted to just get sloshed and was not really interested in tasting wines. So that was it. But they had 2 very interesting wines, I thought. One was a Sauvignon Blanc, which I pulled it up here, and it's Domaine Grand Rocher Saint Brice is how I'm going to say that. It is a Sauvignon Blanc from Burgundy, which is kind of an unusual place for it to come. And I'll go ahead and read the little description that the sommelier guy gave us. So, Eric Lavelle, owner and winemaker of Saint Brice les Vino, established Domaine Grand Rocher in 1987. The property comprises 22 hectares of vineyards spread between Chablis and Auxerre. The area of Saint Brice is in the far northern reaches of Burgundy and is unique that it is the only region in Burgundy that is known for producing Sauvignon Blanc. And so behind this light gold color, Saint Brice is hiding aromas of citrus fruit, black currant, and licorice, the taste of mineral, dry, and very delicate to the palate. So something that was super interesting about this one, the reason I picked it is I liked it, but I probably would not drink this regularly. It tastes like vegetables. It's really interesting. Yeah, it's like vegetables and licorice. So
that sounds like awful garbage.
Yeah,
because I don't like black licorice.
Yeah,
so.
Well, it does have that flavor, and it's like a slight anise or whatever they call those anise seeds.
Anise.
Anise. It is. I mean, it's a typical Sauvignon Blanc. It is fruity, like citrusy and stuff like that. But the citrus is very, very toned down. It's not nearly as tart as Sauvignon Blanc typically, and it has this just like extremely strong vegetable flavor that was like it's like snap peas, maybe. Like it's just a really interesting. Like, oh, well, that's kind of unusual. I don't think I've had that flavor.
So like fresh, early summer greens. It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Really, really an interesting note, I guess, that I've not had, I don't think, in a wine. I've had like the grassy flavors, and I think that's kind of where this comes from. I think they call it hibiscus, but this was like vegetables. It wasn't like grass. It was like it was super interesting. The other one, I also pulled that up here. And their site is actually a pretty good site. It's, of course, it's Rioja. So that was they had they had 4 reds, and of the 4 reds, I thought the Rioja was the best one. And
of course, it's Rioja,
right? Yeah. Their site's a great site. It's got a great English translation. What's funny though is his notes don't translate the wine, so it took me a while to figure out what the wine was. And so in the English translation is breeding, and in Spanish it's crianza, I guess. So this is Bodega Eduardo Garrido Rioja Crianza 2015. And so if you translate it to English on their website, it's the one is breeding. That's the they have young man, breeding, booking, and Grand Reserva.
Yeah, I like combining those in my head. Young man, booking, breeding.
Yeah. This was really good. This was actually interesting. It was 80% Tempranillo, 20% Grenache, which is not an unusual blend for Rioja. So the notes that the sommelier gave me was founded in 1923 by Vincent Garrido. The winery is now owned and operated by Amelia Garrido and her father, located in Rioja Alta. So, we've talked about this before, is that it's Rioja is split onto 2 sides based on the river that goes through it. Both French and American oak. That is unusual. Is that I believe that Rioja typically just uses American oak, or maybe I have that backward. But I do know that Rioja is famous for only using one oak, and this one uses actually both American and French, which is unusual. And then the final description is rich cherry color and medium body. To the nose, this wine offers clean, fruity aromas with hints of balsam and fine wood. Taste is smooth and balanced with hints of ripe fruit, lingering, long, and delicate in the mouth. And I think that's a apt description of it. It's not as like sock up to you like what you and I typically like with like Tempranillo and Grenache for that matter. I like kind of that where it's like really in your face. This is definitely a European style red where it's a lot more. It does still have a lot of those fruit flavors. That's what you kind of expect from a Rioja, but it does also have a lot more mineraliness, leathery, tobacco, that kind of stuff. And I think this must have been from the oak. It also has had a very strong like French bread buttery addition to it, which I think goes really well with anything that's sort of jammy to some degree. You get
that sounds really that sounds like a really good addition.
Yeah. I think that if that's what they were going for, which I imagine they are because they're expert winemakers, then they did a great job on it. This was did I say it was a 2015?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is a 2015. They also have a Gran Reserva, which is as we discussed. There's Reserva, which I think is 5 years, and then Gran Reserva, I believe, is 10, aged in oak, and that Gran Reserva is 90% Tempranillo and 10% Grenache. And I was wondering if possibly I'd like to get it. This is not available in the United States as far as I can tell. I don't know if maybe these guys that I went to wine tasting could order it for me. But what I was kind of curious about is with the percentages on the blend in the Gran Reserva, if maybe that year Grenache was not produced as much and Tempranillo was, and then the year that breeding was done. So what I'd be curious to see is if in 2025, when the Gran Reserva comes out from them, if it's 80-20 like breeding, or if it's going to be 90-10 like the current Gran Reserva. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of an interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question because like the idea might be that Grenache doesn't age as well.
Yeah.
Or it could be that like Tempranillo is like what they're looking for more like for the long flavor, like long aging flavor. Or it could be like just kind of like a classic tradition where it's like, no, we do 80-20. But also like you're saying, could it be that they weren't grown as much, or maybe like there was some sort of not like industrial accident, but like some sort of loss of crop or something like that. So it's like, hey, the Tempranillo can stand on its own longer. So
yeah,
interesting.
I know. See, one of the things if you look, so Young Man is 100% Tempranillo, and it is. Let's see. It doesn't say an age. Oh, it says 3 months. Actually, so Young Man is only aged 3 months. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
I'd like to try that.
Yeah, I would too. And actually, this is an interesting note on it. It says 20% of this wine has remained 3 months in barrel, so it's not all aged 3 months. That's interesting. I would like to try that. Yeah, I wonder if this winery can order me these. This is interesting.
I wonder if you could get like a tasting pack. It's like, hey, I just want all 4. Just give me all 4.
Yeah. And so then booking is also 100% Tempranillo, and it says 18 months in American and French, and then given an additional 24 months in bottle. And so that's okay. So that's interesting. So I wonder. I'm really curious about this now. I bet you the dude who ran that tasting. I might go back over there. It was in Magnolia in Fort Worth at. Did they tell me what the wine club was called on here? Yeah, it's not on their thing here. It was, but it's at this wine shop in Magnolia. It was actually kind of a cool place. Like when you nice. Live out here, we might go and hang out there. And Magnolia is kind of a cool part of Fort Worth. It's like there's a lot of like there's breweries and restaurants and stuff that you can just walk. Basically it's Ghent. Yeah. So it's but this was on the very, very far end of Magnolia, so it's kind of like way down there. But a good place to park if you're going to walk all the way in, and if you're going to stop there, get drunk, then walk back.
Well, it's kind of like where Smartmouth is technically in Chelsea.
Oh yeah, right.
Instead of Ghent, but like if you didn't know Norfolk, you'd be like, "Oh, this is Ghent." It's like, well, no, it's Chelsea. But
yeah, right.
Like, not that this isn't Magnolia, but it's like out there. So
it may not be actually Magnolia, but it's on that same road that if you go far enough, actually, where the Heim is, or Heim, whatever that barbecue joint is that I like a lot, it's on the opposite side. So it's like, so if we walk like 2 miles down, we'd be at Heim from where this winery is.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Yeah. It's just a long straight road. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It was a really cool place. If I can remember the name, I'll put it in the show notes. And if anybody's interested in checking it out, the tasting is cheap. It's only $20, and you get eight wines to taste. And the guy is very knowledgeable. It was full of a lot of middle-aged white women who were extremely loud, but that was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say that has nothing to do with the quality of the product they were serving.
They were extremely loud. I think Victoria was just like, she didn't care for the tasting anyways, and also they were just way too loud for her, I think. So but it was fun. I kind of wanted to go downstairs and have a glass of. They have actually this breeding on draft, I guess. What do you call that with a wine bottle? It's tapped, so. You can have a glass, and the glasses are pretty inexpensive. I think it was like $9 or something like that.
That's not bad.
No, not bad at all for an expensive wine. And very knowledgeable staff, just and a comfortable place. They had, and apparently they do jazz night as well, so you can go and have a glass of wine and listen to jazz. So
that could be fun.
Yeah. When you're out here, I think that would be fun. They also had like a really nice backyard courtyard garden that better. Yeah, it was really neat. It's a little bit too hot to kind of sit out in those types of places right now, but it's 105 degrees, and it's probably going to be 105 degrees through September. So it's a little bit. Although I think next week it's supposed to be down in the lower 90s for a little while.
Yeah,
but,
today
it's hot.
Today it hit 90, and I went outside because we forgot to walk Henry in the morning.
Yeah,
and. I went outside when it was supposed to be 90 to let him out to see if he'd go poop or whatever. And it was I was like, it's not bad. And then, I was on the shade, I was on the porch, and I was just like, tomorrow is supposed to be 86, but thunderstorms in the afternoon. So it could be just monstrously humid all day and then rain. It's
yeah.
But the next day is supposed to be 78, and it's nearly July, and we're still getting days in the 70s.
That's crazy. It's so weird.
Yeah. La Nina is an interesting time.
Yeah. We've got, it's just been, now granted, it's always hot here. It has just been really, really hot consistently for a long time. And we don't have any rain. So, we're not allowed to do fireworks this year, but I think the cities are still allowed to, of course. But, that's going to be a bummer. I'm hoping that we can bring the kids to, see fireworks since they don't get, they've never been to 4th of July. So I think that'd be kind of neat.
Be interesting if they had.
Yeah. Well, they do American parties and stuff there, but but I don't think it's not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no.
All right. Well, I think it's a good place to wrap up. So you want to do our plugs real quick?
Yeah, so you can follow us tastinganarchy.com, Childerberg.com. You can follow Jacob's exploits on Twitter, either at the Tasting Anarchy handle or Childerberg, which is his main pump handle.
Yeah.
Childerberg Go should be, and I don't have the dates in front of me, but in May of 2023.
Yeah, it's 26th through, I think, 29th. I can
yeah, something like that. But we'll leave it. We'll get it better ones from there. So yeah, if you can get your hands on Ouzel Finch's Nost, Wistful Affection, give that a shot. Any of the ones that Jacob recommended, some barbecue beer, a black rice lager, a Tempranillo Grenache blend, and some sort of ass wine that tastes like vegetables. Give those a shot. Stay free, everybody.
Cool, everybody, stay free.